This podcast replay is brought to you by AccidentLawFirm.com. For truck, motorcycle, and rideshare accidents, call Bobby Nunez, 305-444-4407. AccidentLawFirm.com. We're going to talk a little Miami Heat now with Andre Fernandez from The Athletic. And, of course, you can follow him on Twitter at FernandezAndreC. Last night, the Miami Heat, they ended up losing to the Clippers 122-117, dropping the record to 31-14 and a 20-2 home record, suffering their second loss of the season at home, both to the Clippers and to the Lakers now. So they've lost to two West Coast teams, two of the elite teams, actually. In the we just came off that Hall of Fame elite conversation. Oh, hey, man. Right now, the Heat are only losing to elite teams at home, and they're considered really, really good, maybe not elite. You know what I'm saying? So, but does that mean the Heat are Hall of Fame worthy also? There you go. All right, we are going to get into it right now with Andre Fernandez. And remember, Andre, you can follow him on Twitter at FernandezAndreC. Catch his exceptional work at The Athletic. Remember to subscribe to Athletic. It's like a joke. It's like $4 a month or something. And you get coverage of all your teams. I'm sure they're going to add an Inter-Miami reporter very soon now. And you'll get the nation, too, at the same time. Let's bring him aboard. Andre, good morning, my man. How are you doing?
Good, buddy. How's it going?
Oh, man, loving life, my brother. It's a beautiful thing. So, when are you guys announcing your Inter-Miami reporter?
We're working on it. I know they've been writing some stuff here and there on them. It's like most of the important stuff. But I'm hoping soon. I'm hoping any day maybe we get some good news on that front. That'll be good.
That should happen though. You move the budget over from Marlins to Inter, which is really, really smart on your part because you're gonna get a lot more business on that end. All right, let's get to brass tacks here. Let's get to the real deal. The Heat last night. Hey man, having said everything going on, the injury to Butler in that game, the guys that were already out, and I know that they were missing Paul George and they were missing Beverly, so they were missing two pieces. But overall, I thought it was a hell of a performance by that team yesterday, even down the stretch, man, when they were in the hole again and they came back to make it interesting.
Right. Well, I think, people probably, the way the season's gone, they've had a few ups and downs. People forget that the Clippers were a lot of people's championship pick coming in.
Yep.
And they showed that at times last night, the talent they have on the floor when it's all put together. I mean, it wasn't even all put together, like you said, but at the same time, you could see when Kawhi is on, when he hits those stretches like that. I was just talking right now saying I could not believe that was his first career triple-double. I was in total shock when I saw the tweet, But again, the Heat, some of the stories of the night, one of the biggest ones, obviously, Dion actually stepping on the floor and then, contributing and, doing, what he did at the end there with the two blocks, the three, moments where he contributed on the floor was good to see. Finally, he was like the last remaining holdout of the guys that, we've talked about that before, what's been going on with him and this season to get guys that can contribute off the bench like that. So it's interesting to see where that storyline goes from here on out.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. But getting back to Kawhi, that's the difference, my brother, when we see, Jimmy's an all-star, Bam might be playing like an all-star at this point in time, but a superstar turns it on whenever they want. And that's the thing about that guy and how he can elevate whoever he's with, whether it's San Antonio, Toronto, or last night, the Clippers.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. I mean, you see the not just the way he creates to the rim, the way he finds teammates. I mean, like I said, that's why I could not believe that he's never had, a triple-double before because, it's not like he's just a shooter. It's not like he's just a scorer. The guy can, he has, all-around facets to his game, and you saw that on display last night and, picked up a big win for them because, they've had, that report that came out of it for us that saying that, things haven't been exactly, great on, behind the scenes with them this year. But when they turn it on and, once they get George back, they get Beverly back and imagine how, they're going to face the Heat again. I mean, Miami's going to LA in a couple of weeks. So we'll see how that goes with the rematch.
Listen, all that stuff is blown out of proportion. It's because they've got weed legal there in California because I don't know what the hell Montrezl Harrell is smoking. They had won 6 of 8 going into that game last night, and now 7 of 9. Doesn't sound to me like a team that's freaking struggling, dude. I mean, you know, if you're the Atlanta Hawks and you want to talk about that there's chaos, or you want to talk about you're not happy if you're the Portland Trailblazers, I can get that situation.
Right.
And the other thing is, brother, if you're going to complain about preferential treatment for Kawhi or Paul George on that team, then you're a moron because you got no shot at a title without those two guys and without taking care of them for the whole season, right?
No, absolutely. No, you see, that's what makes that team click. Like you said, I mean, Kawhi can elevate to another level. Once you get Paul George back, you have that kind of a star again. And that supporting cast is really good. You know, Lou Williams, him, you know, the players they have there kind of all around the mix there when it's on. You got a little bit of a glimpse of that last night, and I think, you know, down the stretch you'll see it even more.
Yeah, and hell, our guy's competing with Lou Williams for 6th Man of the Year. Only problem is he can't stay healthy. Damn it! Dude? What's going on? What is it? You know, my theory is the worst thing Goran did, and I know it was great for him and his country, but the worst thing he did a few years back was go play in that European tournament. I think that ended up being the nail in the coffin that put so much wear and tear on his body that it's never recovered from that point on. And I think it all stems from that. But that's just me. I'm not a doctor, and I didn't sleep in a Holiday Inn last night.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I thought, you know, that was the first thing I told Manny last time. Like, that's what they missed the most. I mean, out of the guys that were hurt, even more than Kendrick Nunn. You know, at times last night when things started to slip away, I'm like, this is when Dragic could come in off the bench if he wasn't in the game already and flip the tide. We saw him do that the game before when they were struggling against the Wizards. He was part of that second unit that came in and lit it up and, you know, turned things around. He's done that a bunch of times this year. Physically, yeah, I mean, he's even had to change the way he plays. You saw he's shooting more threes this year than he ever has. Luckily, in a good way, he's been more accurate than he's been in years from that end, but he's had to make those adjustments to, you know, to compensate for some of this wear and tear. I mean, I don't think it's anything serious, but it's just unfortunate that, again, it seems like he keeps getting these little nagging injuries. You know, he got the groin earlier this year. Now this, who knows, maybe this could sit him down for a couple games or we'll see. I mean, we'll find out more tomorrow, but, you know, it's just annoying that you can't, if this continues to pop up because he's a little older now because of the wear and tear.
Let me ask you, how serious or what do you know about the Kendrick Nunn injury?
Well, that's what we're going to have to find out a little bit more tomorrow. But I know when I saw Achilles, or whenever I see Achilles, I'm a little bit like, uh-oh, you know, because obviously it's not something that, you know, it's something, it raises alarm bells just hearing that word. So I think tomorrow practice, you might hopefully get a better indication of that. But that would be, you know, extremely unfortunate seeing what he's become this year and, you know, the role that he plays with them in their starting lineup and just the offense he can generate. I mean, he's been their leading scorer a bunch of times this year, and, you know, we know the story. It's one of those surprise stories of the league this year.
So, what do we know about Jimmy Butler, my brother?
Well, you know, the rolled ankle. I mean, I guess today is one of those days where he'd probably come in, probably get some treatment, see some, you know, get reevaluated a little bit. But it could be, you know, similar to Goran, like one of those day-to-day situations. Let's see how it responds over the next couple of days. I mean, the thing is now with this back-to-back Monday and Tuesday, you know, it's very surprising to me if all of them are back for Monday for sure against Orlando. And then even that within itself, you know, they have to manage it a little bit, see how much one guy plays or whatnot with these injuries. So, I mean, the banged up Heat going into these next two. And then, you know, the Celtics game on Tuesday is going to be big as well. You know, any clash with any of these 5 teams that they're battling right now. But I think the one I think I'm concerned about the most, just because of the nature of what it is with Nunn.
Yeah, definitely. Achilles is something that scares the hell out of me, man. Andre Fernandez, of course, with The Athletic, covers the Heat every day. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at Fernandez Andre C, and you catch his work there at The Athletic. All right, so let's get into Dion. Dion played last night, 18 minutes, 5 of 12, 4 of 9 from three-point range, obviously, 2 ugly air balls in all of that. Had the 2 blocks and the 4 rebounds overall. Now, Andre, First of all, what'd you think of that performance? Because it wasn't efficient as a shooter overall, but as a 3-point shooter, it was efficient. 5 of 12 isn't, but 4 of 9 is.
Yeah, not bad from the perimeter and not bad in that, but like my buddy Manny wrote today, his story, you wonder if Dion still even has we've seen a decline in like that first step, that explosiveness to the basket. It wasn't like vintage Dion. It wasn't him, attacking the rim. That's where he maybe just did it like once, and I think he was blocked if I remember correctly. I mean, some of that could have been rust and could get better with more chances like last night, but it's obviously not the same player as he was since before the surgery. So in terms of just the basketball player Dion, I don't know what kind of player he would be at this stage, removed from the surgery at this much time. He's obviously missed so much game action. He's been in practices, but not this kind of thing. So it's going to take a while to get his legs back there. And then the bigger question, which is the other thing that he wrote about today, was, does this even give a prayer of a chance that he'd have some trade value before February 6th? I mean, it doesn't seem like much, and we know all the baggage that, has been well documented with him. And that's where I don't think teams, plus the money that he's owed, I don't think teams would really flinch that or change their stance too much. But I don't know. If he plays the next 5 games and he looks even better than last night, does that move the needle maybe in the Heat's direction to be able to move him? We'll see. That's another interesting thing to follow.
That to me, Andre, is everything now. Is, does he learn his lesson? Does he build from this? Does he become an idiot again? How does he handle the opportunity? Does he wait patiently? Because if he looks around and he looks at the landscape, he has to say, well, Goran breaks down all the time. I'm going to have other opportunities. If I just
Jimmy's had,
you're going to have opportunities. So because he's got one more year on this contract, correct?
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
so
12.6, something like 12.6 million, I think, next year. One more. Yeah, that's it.
Right. So it's up to you, dude. Maybe you can do something. You're not going to move now before the trading deadline. That's not going to happen. But next in the offseason, maybe you might be able to find another home if you actually, for the next half of this year, prove that you can be a team player and be all of that. So I'm going to put you on the spot. Does Dion Waiters behave from here to the end of the season? What's the percentage you put on it, Andre?
I don't know if I can put it completely over 50%. I really don't, just because of past history. I mean, I'd like to think so, but, there's too much history there that makes you think too good to be true sometimes, with him. And like something's going to pop up. You just have that paranoid feeling like you're going to hear something at some point. But, I mean, I don't know if I can look past it the next couple of weeks, put it that way. Like, I have to see how he comes back in. I mean, he's going to get – I would think he gets more opportunity now, especially if this Butler thing lingers a little bit. The Dragic injury lingers a little bit the next couple of games here. And against good opponents, like we talked about, the Celtics, the Clippers again. But long-term, TBA, my friends, I don't know.
Hey, too much there. Hey, dude, don't overlook these next 2 Orlando games, okay?
And the Orlando games. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, bro.
They them up there, too.
Yeah, well, they're a playoff team because they're in the playoff bracket.
Right.
But they're a pain in the ass to the Miami Heat, and it's a home and an away game. So you're
and there's a 2-7 matchup right now if the season ended today.
Yes, exactly. So while those other teams you mentioned are good, this team, man, somehow or another they give them trouble.
Yeah.
Andre, let me ask you something. The other night when you watched him bench 5 guys and bring the other 5 on, what'd you think of that? And what has been kind of the reaction from players about that when you've asked them individually?
I didn't see too much of a reaction, but one thing I did find interesting was I thought it was ballsy because if you think about the fact that Butler was part of the benching, and I don't mean that in like, everything has gone well, Jimmy's fit well, but how many times does a coach, bench his star player, bench his max player? He benches him, he benches Bam, who I know is starting to emerge as that type of guy. So it just shows you how Spo is, that he will do that, and it won't matter which guy is within that strategy or that move. If he feels like you're not bringing it at that point in time, you're not you're not impacting the game the way it needs to be, and it clearly wasn't. like he said, it was a no-brainer. They were getting outscored, 26-6 or 20-0 at one point. He had to do it, but I just thought it was cool to see like a coach really take that and really, that's the remarkable part. Usually you don't do that when your max player is one of those guys that you're sending to the bench and then sending them for a whole quarter too.
Yeah. No, but I mean, that's hey, Jimmy's the guy that said, hey, Spo will cuss your ass out right away. So,
right. Exactly.
But then again, Jimmy's one of those guys that responds to tough coaching. He doesn't care. It doesn't bother him. He's not one of these, really touchy millennials or Generation Zs that these kind of kids, man, you tell them something nasty, and boy, they will carry that thing like luggage for the rest of their lives. They're like, they have been just broken for the rest of their lives because you told them something nasty. They would, millennials and Generation Zs would never survive with our parents. I mean, never.
Yeah.
With our parents and grandparents, oh my Lord, they would have been. Those kids would have been mentally tortured for the rest of their lives with the people that we grew up with.
And that's the thing about Jimmy, but again, credit in a way to him being that way, and then Spo also knowing him enough what they've been through so far. But even then, this isn't a guy that you've had on your team 3, 4, 5 years either. So again, I just credit the fact that a lot of coaches probably wouldn't have done that, but like I said, ballsy move, and he knows, they have their standards, and he has his standards, and he decided to do something like that. It was really interesting to see that.
Andre, is there a difference for this team now when they're facing Orlando? Like, do they look at it? I know they might give you the company line, like, hey, we take every game seriously and all of that. But internally, is there something amongst the franchise and the team? It's like, hey, this team's given us way too many problems. They've beaten us more than they should. We've been better than them the last 3 years, and we continue to lose to them. I'm just wondering, what kind of an attitude is there about this damn game?
I mean, I think they have to. I mean, you look at that, and even when they're undermanned, I mean, this last time that they lost, it was another one of these games where they're shorthanded. They had just lost one of their best players and still came out, still gave them trouble, still pulled away at the end of the game, and Miami just looked flat. But in general, they've had too many of those games this year where you just don't want you keep every time you think that they've figured it out and they're not susceptible to one of these like upsets, one of these like lower than 500 teams coming up and biting them and them having these poor stretches of play on the defensive end. Two of those games pass, and then here comes another one.
Right.
The Sacramento game, they come back and they pull it off. Washington, they almost blow it. They almost blow that game. So even in some of these victories, the defense hasn't been up to standard. They keep having the inconsistent stretches. And I think they have to tell themselves that's right at the top. Orlando's right at the top of the list of those teams that have continuously bit Miami in that way. And here they come again. And then you're going to get them twice within a week. There's a stretch where you want to kind of keep your seeding the way it is. You want to stay in the dogfight between these 5 teams. You better win these games.
And how screwed up is it that you talked about that characteristic, yet they're 8-0 in overtime games? So in overtime games, when it gets crunch time, they find a way to win those games, which to me is a sign that you're a pretty damn good team overall when you're able to do that. But how helter-skelter is that, dude?
Yeah, I mean, and I had an interesting talk with Bam the other day about that and how he kept saying, we do a good job of that, of bringing it when it counts, late in the fourth quarter, in the overtime period. The defense takes it up a notch, but they have to just find a way to consistently do that throughout a game just so they're not in that predicament to begin with and fighting one of these teams, fighting for your lives down the wire, because that takes a toll, and you were only by game 45 on Monday. There's still a lot of regular season left, or on game 46, I'm sorry. And you just, you can't have that grind night in and night out every single night, putting yourself in those situations. I mean, you can say all you want about how it toughens you up, but it's also a drain too. You have to make it to the playoffs, and in the playoffs, it's a whole different ballgame. There's a lot more like one-on-one matchups. There's a lot more concentration on guys having to make plays, like, individually and on the court, a lot of those situations. So it's a whole different animal. So so far it's been good, but at the same time, long term, they can't continue to put themselves in those spots.
Andre Fernandez does an excellent job of covering the Miami Heat for The Athletic. Follow him on Twitter at Fernandez Andre C. More importantly, subscribe to The Athletic. You will get great coverage of all your local teams and, of course, national perspective, too. Andre, as always, you're a stud, my brother. Thank you for taking some time.
Thanks, buddy. Really appreciate it.
You got it, baby.
Have a good Saturday.
Be good, man. Thank you, sir. That's Andre Fernandez. How about that? Talking a little basketball and